Thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2. It's a great day to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Let's jump right in. So Big Country Darnell Washington, he gets a contract extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's jump into that. Tight end Darnell Washington signing contract extension with the Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers have signed tight end Darnell Washington to a 4-year, $42 million extension. First reported by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Steelers lock up Washington after a breakout 2025 season. Per Fowler, $21 million of it's guaranteed, although that likely includes injury guaranteed at $10.5 million per year. Washington becomes the NFL's highest paid blocking tight end. Overall, he becomes the league's 12th highest paid tight end and slightly behind Pat Freiermuth's 12.1 average year value. You know, when I look at this contract, and I like Big Country Darnell Washington, I definitely think that he makes the team better. He makes the locker room better. He's a very good player. He's not a well, I shouldn't say that. He's a very, very good player. For the things that the Steelers ask him to do, you know, he's an excellent player. But here's the problem. When you see somebody like Darnell Washington get this type of money, and everybody else is getting big contracts, Nick Herbig, Darnell Washington, what do you think that Joey Porter Jr. is going to ask for? You know, if I'm Joey Porter Jr. and I see this contract and I'm like, well, Darnell, I know it's two different position groups. And you'd be like, one doesn't have to do with the other. But I think it does, because you look at the value that each player brings to your team. And just based off of this, I mean, a lot of people are going to complain about the type of money that Joey Porter Jr. wants and the type of money that he commands. And I already know what the argument's going to be. Like, oh, Joey Porter Jr., he doesn't get a lot of interceptions. I think he only has one interception. And, you know, you'll hear this from fans that aren't really paying attention. They'll say, well, he doesn't get a lot of balls thrown his way. That's not true at all. Joey Porter Jr. gets a lot of balls thrown his way. Now he breaks it up, whatever, but that's going to be the argument. But for a player that hasn't given up a touchdown in, I think, 2 years, whatever the case is, you can't blame Joey Porter Jr. You know, again, let's go to Nick Herbig. Let's talk about Nick Herbig. He signs a deal for 4 years, $100 million. He barely plays. In 2023, Nick Herbig, he missed 0 games, but again, he really didn't have it. He played in every game, but not a lot of snaps his rookie year. 2024, he had missed 4 games with a hamstring. 2025, he missed 2 games with a hamstring. Now, he's getting injured on very, very limited snaps. He's not playing a lot of football, and he's still getting injured. And then you look at the astronomical amount of money that Nick Herbig received. You can't complain when Joey Porter Jr. turns around and says, I bring more value to the team than these 2 players, and I want to be paid like it. You can't blame him, and we know it's coming. I mean, I don't know how much more money the Steelers have to even pay Joey Porter Jr. at this point. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, who knows? But putting it from Joey Porter Jr.'s perspective, I can't blame him if he wants to be compensated heavily when you look at these other contracts that Nick Herbig received and Darnell Washington received. You know, even Alex Highsmith, the amount of money he's making. In 2020, Alex Highsmith had 2 sacks. 2021, 6 sacks. 2022, he had 14.5 sacks, his best year. 2023, 7 sacks. 2024, 6 sacks. 2025, 9.5 sacks. And he only averages 35 tackles per year, like 35, 40 solo tackles per year. And you figure Alex Highsmith, he's getting one-on-one matchups all the time because they're double teaming and triple teaming and chipping TJ Watt. If anybody's underperforming out of the outside pass rushers, to me, it's Alex Highsmith. But here, you know, I don't want to get too far off topic because I want to stick to what I was talking about. I don't think you can get rid of Alex Highsmith this year at all. He needs to stay. Can Nick Herbig even play an entire season? Can he make it through an entire season? So let's just say Nick Herbig starts to play a lot. He gets injured again, and you trade Alex Highsmith, and Alex Highsmith is nowhere to be found. Now, I like Jack Sawyer a lot. Jack Sawyer is, every time he stepped on the field last year, you felt his impact, but he's still very raw. So this whole thing, oh, we're just going to get rid of Alex Highsmith right away. I don't think that's a good idea. And I think the Steelers need to be more creative with getting Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, and TJ Watt all on the field together, rushing the passer at the same time. Something that Mike Tomlin didn't even remotely try to do. Didn't even remotely try to make some type of defensive scheme or some type of defensive alignment to get his best 3 pass rushers on the field. They never even made an effort. And again, going back to Joey Porter Jr., when he looks at, the amount of money that Alex Highsmith is getting paid, when he looks at what Darnell Washington's getting paid, when he looks at what Nick Herbig's getting paid, Joey Porter Jr. plays 99% of the snaps, hasn't given up a touchdown in a century. Okay, I understand the interception thing, but that's not the point. Who brings the most value to the team? Who, when they do their job, is really impacting the team? And to me, Joey Porter Jr. is night and day above these other players, what they're contributing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. I'm not going to read the article. How many more contract extensions will Steelers do after Nick Herbig, Darnell Washington? Who knows? Good question. I mean, I'm not going to read it. I don't know how they're going to handle this JPJ situation. Maybe he gets the franchise tag this year. Who knows how that goes? I have no clue. But I'll keep you posted if I do. TJ Watt admits past reason for not moving around defense. He says he was just being stubborn. I think in the past, it's a little bit more of me being stubborn. I think the new system allows a lot of this built in, so I really can't say no. I have to move with it. A lot of us are interchangeable parts. You're not just learning your position. You have to learn the whole defensive front structure. We all are basically interchangeable. We do different things. So I think you're going to see a lot more movement out of not just me, but the whole front. Watt told reporters today via video from Post Gazette Sports on YouTube. I mean, I'm sorry, I love TJ Watt, but that's really not up to him. And Mike Tomlin shouldn't have let TJ Watt get away with it. I think that was a mistake. I think TJ Watt, he would, if you look at his sack numbers, the amount of sacks he has, if you're moving him around, I think he puts up more sack numbers, and he's great against the run. I think his Pro Football Focus grade against the run is like a 92, even at this stage of his career. He's excellent at setting the edge. You can't let the offenses know where you're going to be every snap so the tackles can get set and everybody can get comfortable double teaming you and triple team and chipping you. I mean, come on, TJ. I mean, I'll put that on Coach Tomlin. As much as TJ's being stubborn, it's not up to him. He's not the coach. So that's on Tomlin. So matter of when the deal gets done, not if. Local insider provides Joey Porter Jr. extension update. According to local Steelers insiders, Mark Capoli, cornerback Joey Porter Jr. will have a deal soon too. Wow. Steelers are really spending money. The Steelers are still very interested in signing cornerback Joey Porter Jr. to a long-term extension that could be anywhere between 25 and 30 million per season. Capoli wrote on X. That would require the Steelers to restructure a handful of contracts, which they are more than willing to do. With Porter, it's a matter of when the deal gets done, not if. Porter was dominant in 2025, especially late in the season, holding opposing quarterbacks to under 50% completion rate. When he was in coverage, he also had one interception and 11 passes defense and cut way down on the penalties, drawing just 6 flags last season. I mean, hey, and another thing, when players get their contracts restructured, it doesn't mean they're going to lose money. It means they're going to get more money up front. A lot of fans get it wrong. They think that it means that other players are going to take pay cuts. That's not what it means. It just means other players are going to get more upfront money. Look, I'm not a cap expert, and I'm not going to pretend to be, but I know that's the way that it works. 25. I mean, if I'm Porter and if I'm Porter, you're going to say, listen, one's an outside pass rusher, obviously Nick Herbig, and one is a cornerback. But if I see Nick Herbig get $25 million per season, I'm Joey Porter Jr. I want just as much, or if not, he's going to ask for $30 million a season. And I don't think he's going to budge. I really don't. Can you blame him? Let's be honest. Can you blame him? So we'll just have to wait and see. See what else is going on. Colin Cowherd, not a fan of Steelers extending Darnell Washington's contract. Colin Cowherd probably doesn't even know what Darnell Washington does for the team. You can't have enough Darnell Washingtons on your team. You really do. You need those types of players to win championships. So I'm not even going to read what he has to say. Oh, this is the stupidest argument ever. Alex Highsmith can very easily make the argument that he should be paid more than Nick Herbig, thinks Breer. Well, you know what? I mean, if you're doing it just based off the numbers, off of Nick Herbig only had 6.5 sacks last year. That's like his career amount of sacks. If you're just basing it off that number, I take back what I just said. You know, everything with Nick Herbig is potentially. Well, you know what? He can't be missing 2 games every year, 2 to 4 games every year from this point on. From non-contact injuries with his hamstring, he can't keep missing games. Alex Highsmith can very easily make the argument that he should be paid more than Nick Herbig, thinks Breer. Omar Khan has been a busy man this offseason. He was active in free agency in the draft, improving the Pittsburgh Steelers roster. While June is usually quiet when it comes to NFL news, Khan is still making moves, signing players to contract extensions. That includes Nick Herbig, who earned a big payday despite being a backup. Herbig earned that money, but Albert Breer thinks it could also result in Alex Highsmith wanting his deal altered. Oh, give me, Alex, you better knock it off. I see where you're coming from, but stop, please. Does it mean he's back at the table looking for a correction to his deal? Breer asked Wednesday on Sports Illustrated's YouTube channel. His deal is about $17 million per year. He can very easily make the argument here, I need to get paid more as a starting player than Nick Herbig, who is being played as a guy who is a rotational guy. Certainly, I think the Herbig contract will have some sort of effect on how Alex Highsmith approaches things from a business perspective. Herbig is set to earn around $25 million per year under his new deal. I mean, it's so crazy. Listen, I'm happy for you, Nick Herbig, if you see this. But dude, everything is just based off potential. And you know what it was? The Steelers didn't want him to reach the free agent. Nick Herbig was going to get paid this amount of money no matter what. He was going to make this money. If he hits the free agent markets, he's making that money. So the Steelers are basing it off of the film that they have on him when he was on the field and what he could potentially do. And he's super explosive. I mean, he does make the most out of his snaps. But again, it's not a good look. And when 3 years, you miss 6 games. And again, the first year, he's a rookie. He played in every game, but he was only getting very limited snaps last year, never mind his rookie year. So, hey, Nick, I hope you go out there and you get 15, 20 sacks. I hope you're, the new monster wearing the black and gold. I really do. But you're making a lot of money. And it's not, I mean, that's the market. Nobody can complain about the market. Florio says Steelers deserve credit for getting ahead of Nick Herbig extension. Yeah, because you got to remember one thing also on the flip side of it, which I didn't even really think about till just now. If Nick Herbig, let's say this year, the Steelers give Nick Herbig a lot more snaps and he goes crazy and he has like 15 sacks, 2 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles. Instead of getting $25 million a year, now he's looking for $35 million a year, and the Steelers definitely can't sign him then. So, I see what the Steelers did. They see the market. They see the so-called potential. But again, I've been down on Alex Highsmith because I feel like he really underperforms when TJ Watt's getting all that attention. And for the amount of sacks and tackles that he has, I feel like Alex, is not performing up to his best potential. That's my opinion. I mean, he did have 9.5 sacks last year. That's not an easy feat. But prior to that, 2, 6, 14.5, 7, 6, 9.5. He hasn't been exactly and Alex Highsmith misses games too. He's not, to me, he's just too inconsistent for my taste. And if there had to be an odd man out, TJ Watt, it's a different situation for me anyway. He's a legacy player. You want to see him retire in the black and gold. I mean, he's still performing at a very high level, but there's other things as an organization that are going on there that you want to show the players in your locker room, like, hey, we all know your skills are going to diminish at a certain point, but there are, if you show us that on and off the field that there's a certain way to handle yourself. We want to make sure that you wear the same helmet for your entire career. There's other things going on besides play with TJ Watt. And again, that's not a knock on his play at all. You saw the numbers. He gets chipped and double teamed, triple teamed 100 more times than the next player, which is Myles Garrett. They're not doing that to a player that's fallen off or too old. So reporters suggest Joey Porter Jr. wants top 5 cornerback money. You can't blame him. I'm not going to read the article. See what else is going on. Watt will be untradeable. Analysts predict Steelers will move Highsmith after 2026 season. Well, what I'm not going to read the whole article, but what the Steelers really need to do is they need to see if Nick Herbig can make it through the entire season without getting injured. That's easier said than done at this point. But let me read a little bit of it. I do think it's fascinating. They got a guy, Nick Herbig, that got a 4-year extension from the Steelers for $100 million, only $42 million guaranteed. So that might really be like a 2 to 3 year deal if for whatever the reason it didn't go well. I think it's going to age really well. Rosenthal said Wednesday on his NFL Daily podcast. He's really averaging closer to $20 million a year, which for his talent, I think is exceptional. I agree. However, Herbig hasn't given us any reason to doubt him. He's made just 11 starts through 3 years, yet has 16 career sacks. And despite starting just 6 games last year, Herbig put together the best season of his career with 7.5 sacks and 13 tackles for a loss. I mean, they're saying, it's just, it's situational. He's making a lot of money. Again, I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but, again, you can't just say goodbye to Alex Highsmith right now. If Nick Herbig goes down in week 4, which is very possible with him, are you willing to start Jack Sawyer for, be the full-time starter if you get rid of Alex Highsmith? Is Jack Sawyer ready to go? And I love Jack Sawyer. I thought he did a great job last year as a rookie. I thought he was fantastic. But you got to think about these things down the road when you just, all the fans are like, oh, Alex Highsmith's got to go now. Well, you know what? What if Nick Herbig gets hurt? Who's the man up after him? Do you have full confidence in Jack Sawyer that he can handle, being a starter full time in his 18-game season, whatever it is at this point, 17 to 18, who cares? You get the point. Let's see what else is going on. Nick Herbig trusts Steelers will get him more playing time. That's where the coaches come in. I mean, that's where the coaches come in, right? Nick Herbig told reporters yesterday via the Steelers website about how they can get everyone on the field and increase his playing time. Got to have great coaches to put us in a position to make plays, and I'll trust they'll do that. Tomlin didn't even make an attempt. Oh, Nick, you're the captain today. Don't worry, you're not playing. You're going to run down on punt coverage 2 times, but you're the captain. In reality, it hasn't been that big of a problem often enough. One of the Steelers' 3 outside linebackers have dealt with an injury, if not more than one. After all, then rookie Jack Sawyer had to start last year against Detroit. With TJ Watt already dealing with a lung injury, Herbig had to sit that game out too. But assuming full health, for which the Steelers certainly hope, how do you play 3 starters? Frankly, 4-3 teams seem to manage a healthy stable of pass rushers. In theory, you could have all 3-4 outside linebackers playing roughly 67% of the snaps every game. And if you add some looks with all 3, you can bump that up more. Me personally, I'm in favor, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Patrick Queen. And you'll be like, well, what does that have to do with? Like on obvious passing down, You could put Peyton Wilson at linebacker if you're going to drop him back in the coverage. He's tall. He's super fast. He can cover well. I know he had a little dip in his production last year. And then Nick Herbig, you can move him around, or you can move TJ Watt around and let them, all three of those guys, rush the passer. So you have some options. We have been doing that. Head coach Mike McCarthy said when asked about working to play Herbig more. It's great to have Nick here. Nick's excited to be here. We'll definitely highlight the packages for Nick both this week and next week. Maybe that's why they're not watching. Maybe that's why they're not letting some of the reporters watch practice, because the Steelers are really mixing up their defensive packages. I heard some beat reporters complaining because they weren't allowed into the facility to watch and report on practice. You never know. I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to look like a totally different team this year. Offensively, defensively, the tempo at which they play, the urgency in which they play, the game management, the clock management. There was a lot of things going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers under our former coach where you just have to say to yourself, like, are they really prepared for this situation right now? And a lot of times we would get in those situations, and when you look at it, it's like, I'm like, we're not prepared to do this right now. We're not prepared to run a 2-minute drill. We're not, like, I always felt like there was no sense of urgency prior to this coaching staff. That's the way I feel. See what else is going on. Roman Wilson, clearly wide receiver 3 at this exact moment over Jeremy Bernard, says beat writer. One of the final plays of mandatory minicamp was a deep strike from Aaron Rodgers to Roman Wilson. Reports varied on the exact distance, ranging from more than 50 yards to over 70. The important part is that Rodgers hit Wilson in stride. For a quarterback and receiver who struggled to establish consistent chemistry last season, the play may foreshadow a growing connection for the embattled duel. The Rodgers to Roman connection is much better placed than it was a season ago. The Athletic's Mike DeFabo wrote in his minicamp takeaways that deep pass to Wilson wasn't the only one Wednesday. There were big expectations for Wilson in his second season last year, but Rodgers is a stickler for precise route running and receivers being on the same page with pre-snap hand signals. While it was never said outright, Wilson never quite earned the trust of the 42-year-old quarterback. That's why vets like Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Adam Thielen leapfrogged him on the depth chart shortly after joining the Steelers later in the season. Even though the Steelers drafted Jeremy Bernard in the second round, he's looked quite good. Wilson is clearly wide receiver 3 at this exact moment, and an offense that will use a lot of 3 receiver sets. DeFabo wrote, his challenge will be to try to hold off Bernard for the rest of the season. You know, I was looking at some highlights from Jeremy Bernard today, and I was looking what some analysts were saying about him. Like, he doesn't do anything overly exceptional, but he does a lot of things above average. And let's just hope that Jeremy Bernard turns into Brian Hartline, the Miami Dolphins possession receiver, who for a while he had a really good run in the NFL. He had some dominant years with the Dolphins where he was always moving the chains and like making catches at the the biggest times. If Jeremy Bernard turns into a Brian Hartline, we'll all be happy about it. Me personally, I don't think Roman. I know what everybody's saying, but I think that Roman Wilson is the odd man out. Something to like Ben Skronik to me is more valuable than Roman Wilson. I don't know. Like if I had to choose who's more dependable, Ben Skowronek or Roman Wilson, they're definitely going to keep Jeremy Bernard. Ben Skronik is on the roster. If there's got to be a receiver that's got to be let go, I think it's Roman Wilson. Something just tells me he doesn't make the roster. I don't think that I'll put it to you. If Roman Wilson really needs to show up in the preseason and have, pretty good games, or I think his days wearing the black and gold are over and numbered, I don't think he'll be on the roster. That's my opinion. He better play this upcoming preseason game like the Super Bowl, or his time in Pittsburgh could be finished. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2.